here we go. I'm gonna try to get through some of these tonight. No, I'm tired, but for some reason I can't go to sleep.
This happened in April of 2018.
Shit.
I live in a major city in Texas.
But that's
My apartment complex is gated and in a pretty good neighborhood. But the security isn't the best. Sometimes the gates are left open and anyone can piggyback off someone else entering with an access code. Twice in the past 3 years, the management has put out notices of vehicle break-ins or other items being stolen off porches. We also have frequent door-to-door solicitors, even though there are signs forbidding it. So on this particular Friday, I went to bed around 2:30 a.m. For some odd reason, I was having trouble going to sleep. So I put on a podcast to listen to, and I eventually start dozing off. I heard a clicking sound.
Oh, someone trying to pick his lock.
I thought it might have been the upstairs neighbors making some noise.
Oh, what was that?
I kind of zoned this out, as I'm used to my neighbors staying up late on the weekends. After about 30 seconds, I realized the noise is extremely repetitive.
They picking your lock.
I then began focusing on it more intently, trying to isolate what it could be and where it was coming from. Suddenly, it hits me. It's coming from the entrance to my apartment. I look at my apartment and head for the foyer. I identify the noise right away. The lock mechanism is moving back and forth rapidly, as if somebody is trying to unlock the front door. I can hear that an
Oh, that's some bold shit to try to unlock. You're trying to break in and entering when someone is there. Here's one thing to watch a house. Wait to see, if people leave, maybe someone stays there. Maybe they don't leave very often or whatever. And then you're like, okay, well, we can't do that house because it's too much of a risk of running into somebody. So we go to the next house to see, okay, these people leave at a specific time and they're gone, normally a very specific time. But then you got people who just, they know it's late. More than likely somebody's there. Gives a fuck. We're going to break in there. They give us problem. We'll deal with it. Like, it's just, I always find that scary. If somebody trying to break into your house. Because I've known people either broke into the house or tried to break into the house while they were there. And just like, someone's there. Because it's like, they had to have known they were there. Because they were up, moving around. Wasn't even like this dude's in bed. But that is like, people like that, like, you gotta be careful. Because I feel like those people have no problem, killing somebody. And you don't know what they might be. You assume they're there to steal. But, you never know. The serial killers are here.
Object is being inserted into the lock, and the person is trying to jimmy it back and forth. I instinctively turned around, head to my bedside safe, unlock it with a combination,
you got a gun.
and pull out my .357 pistol, and loaded a 14-round magazine, and chambered it with a hollow point round.
Wow, this dude got hollow points.
I then head back to the front door. As I exit my bedroom, I see the lock twist. I immediately aimed my gun, knowing that if somebody came through, I would have to make a split-second decision. I decided that if somebody comes
people
to
just
the
shoot through the doors.
I would give them a momentary chance to retreat. But if they did anything other than that, or enter aggressively, I'm going to shoot and ask questions later. The inside latch lock prevented them from entering.
Oh, it was
when I first moved in.
Is a deadbolt?
I remember thinking that the latch lock was a good security measure.
Oh, they got a deadbolt. I got into
the habit of always keeping it
locked.
They got
the inside latch lock, yeah.
In hindsight, this decision saved me from a life or death confrontation.
I had that in my first apartment.
Upon realizing that, I approached the door and looked through the peephole. On the other side were 2 men and 1 woman. All 3 were wearing hoodies, and it was difficult to make out their faces. The men seemed to have objects in their hands, but I couldn't make out exactly what. The two men were talking back and forth, possibly trying to figure out why they couldn't open the door, even though they had successfully opened the outside lock. The woman was also talking very loudly. Anyone in the hallway would have been able to hear her voice. She was speaking in another language. The only words I could make out
this story
were
sounds kind of familiar.
apartment 250. And she kept repeating that over and over again, like a broken record. Upon hearing that, I start to wonder for a moment if maybe they're just drunk and have the wrong apartment number.
Yeah, but
that's
the
impossible.
unlock, would they pick it
To
unlock?
open the lock, you have to have a copy of my exact key or some kind of lock-picking device. I've never copied my key or given it to anyone. Here's another thing. Not only is 250 not my apartment number, that apartment number does not exist anywhere in the complex.
People are idiots.
Standing back from my door, I took a long broom handle and jab it hard into the surface of the door, letting them know that I'm on the other side. They immediately stopped playing around with the lock and took off running. I debated whether or not to call 911 and decided against it, unless they came back. I know that they're going to be long
He got
gone
an
by the
inside
time anyone gets here,
deadbolt, so
and it would have been too risky to try and follow them to
yeah,
get a
that'd
better
be
description
stupid.
or a license plate. I didn't have enough identifying information. I filed a police report the next day and gave my apartment manager a heads up. They said it was unusual, but they would alert the resource officer and asked for a police presence for the next couple of nights. Nothing ever came of the report.
Next couple of nights.
But that wasn't a surprise to me.
Permanent.
Nobody else in the apartment has ever reported anything similar happening. One precaution I took was to replace the latch with a smart lock, so it could always be locked from the inside, even when I'm not home. It's crazy to think that a latch was the only thing preventing an armed confrontation between myself and the intruders. They say you don't really know what you'll do in situations like this until it actually happens. If one good thing came out of this...
I wonder what type of apartment he had, because the apartments I've lived in, which I've lived in apartments most of my life, you can't change the lock. Like, you have to inform the landlord and they'll change the lock, because they got to always have a lock. But I guess if they allow you to change the lock, you just got to make sure they have a key so they can come in if they need to. Maybe if it's a condo, maybe you don't have to, because you can buy those. Well, like, he's in an apartment. I'm just curious. Like, he had a smart lock, so I was like, because I know my dad once, when we moved to, when we was in Mississippi, he tried to change the locks. And I told him, I said, maybe you should talk to the landlord. My dad tried to do a bunch of shit in different apartments. And I was like, maybe you should ask the landlord before you just do it. Like, he wanted to take the door off my room, because he like, you don't need a door. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm changing clothes, like, I don't need a door. And I told him, I said, maybe you should talk to the landlord before you do that. He went over and talked to the landlord. I was like, yeah, you can't take doors like off. Like, he said, no, you can't take the door off the bedroom. And then he tried to change the locks, because he didn't want the landlord to come in, because he was suspicious that the landlord was just coming in whenever he wanted. And somebody else was suspicious of that too. They thought stuff had been moved, which I think he did go in apartments without notifying people. But I don't think anything was ever stolen, but stuff was like moved, apparently. Like, if stuff was in his walkway, like, he moved it. And I guess people would notice or whatever. But my dad wanted to change the lock and did not give him the lock. I'm like, you can't, even though if he's doing that, yeah, you can report him, I guess, to the police or the management or whatever. But he was the management, because he owned the building, so there was no management. But I guess you can report him to the police. But I was like, you can't just change the locks and not give the guy the, if he's being a creep, okay, but he still owns the place. Like, you can't just change the locks and not give him a key. Like, I don't want him to have a key. Like, that's not how that
I felt
works.
confident that I responded in the right way and was ready for the unthinkable.
I'm thinking about this chair. It makes me sit back.
I live in a small city,
But I
and
can.
nothing much exciting happens around here, especially in my neighborhood. It's pretty rare to even see a car pass by after 10 p.m. I am a 21-year-old male, and I spend most nights playing video games or reading. I rent a 2-bedroom apartment under my parents' house with my sister and her 3-year-old son. She doesn't stay home most nights, and my dad works 2 hours away from home. So generally,
Damn.
I'm alone from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m.
I'm an hour,
The street I live
1
on
hour
gets really
max away
dark,
from home. And that's
and
it.
my house is the last one on this end. From my house to the crossroad is about the distance of a football field. The first time I saw the flashlight guy was about a month and a half ago. As I said before, the neighborhood shuts down by 10, so it seemed odd when I went out for a smoke and saw a man dressed in all black with his hood pulled up walking down my street. But I brushed it off as I finished my cigarette and went back inside. I went to my bedroom and began reading a book. 15 minutes later, I see a flashlight beam sweep through my windows. I should mention that one whole wall of my bedroom is all windows.
I hate
At
that.
this point, I was pretty unnerved, so I put down my book and went to go check things out. I didn't see anything at first, so I chalked it up to me being paranoid.
I hate that. I always wanted to say that. I hate that when I've seen, because I've been to people's houses, especially like when they way out in, I guess you could say in the boonies or whatever, the boondocks, and they have like just the front door is just glass, or their front window that you can see into their living room is just big glass, and I'm just like, why is like your house like? So I've seen places, I've been to places where most of the house is like glass. Like they had like what he's talking about, like he had one of his walls is like just a bunch of windows or just one big window. I'm like, I know you live out in the middle of nowhere. I get it. And, but still, like I feel like people can see you, and it's just I don't know. It's unsettling because one of my neighbors down the street, his front window is like that. And you can see into his living room. I could watch. I've walked when I walked at night. Sometimes I walk by and seen like his whole TV and him sitting there. Only thing is he sits. He's kind of like low because the wall doesn't go all the way down, but it's a big window, so it's hard to see. You only see like the top of his head, and using him and his wife and that old couple, and so I was like, I still don't like that because he doesn't have curtains. You could tell, but you can't. It's hard to see in there when it's daytime, but you could definitely see in there at night. His TV be on all night, and I can't. I don't like that. I don't like when I feel like people can see me. You know, even though I'm out in the middle of nowhere in a house, and I get like I remember I went to this person's house, and it was a friend of mine, and they was a private property. They had a big clearing around their house, which I've seen. Folk, I live in Mississippi. I've seen houses like that where they have big clearings around the house. He had motion lights, so if you walked around it, it'll cut on. It would bright and shine. He had some like kind of facing down and then facing, out towards the opening around his house. So I was like, okay, you got that, you know, that'll cut on if somebody gets close. I get that, but I was like, but still, if somebody wanted, they could be at the tree line because it was a wooded area around him. We had to go down a street where that street only went to his house. I was like, if somebody was planning on like doing something, you or robbing you, they could just stand at the tree line in the tree where you couldn't see them and just use binoculars to look, because you have all these fucking windows in your house. You got windows all over the place. Now I will say for him, all his windows were double plated. I guess he had some money. I don't know what he did for a living, but he must have some money. And well, judging off the place he had some money. So I was like, okay, all his windows were double plated, even his front door, his windows in his bedroom. He had the windows on the second floor with like the same way, the big old windows. And so I was like, okay, they double plated. You don't have to really worry about people breaking them to try to get in, unless somebody just coming to just try to kill you, and because they try to shoot through it. But it still be difficult to double plated windows. But I was like, it's just a privacy thing for me.
And sat back down. But it wasn't long before it happened again. By now, I knew that something was wrong, and I had a really bad feeling in my stomach. I just wanted to ignore it and hope it would just go away. But I urged myself to be a man and look out the window.
Fuck that. Be a coward.
Looking outside, I noticed the man from earlier, standing about 15 feet away, shining his flashlight directly in front of him. He wasn't moving. I stood there for a couple of minutes.
He's staking out.
Wondering what the hell he was doing.
Wondering to see he break in.
Until he swept his flashlight across the whole downstairs of my house. As I said before, no one besides me was home. I was pretty creeped out by this point, and I wasn't sure what to do. So I went upstairs and through the door that separates my apartment from my dad's, and went to his room to grab the shotgun.
Nice.
When I got back downstairs and looked out the window,
he was gone.
The man was gone. I stayed up for the rest of that night, checking every 10 minutes to see if he would come back. This has happened twice more.
Okay, he's staking out.
Same thing.
He's just staking out.
Sweeps his flashlight through my house, and then just stands there. I've gotten
to
where I always sleep with my dad's shotgun next to my bed. My dad says that it's weird, and tells me to stay inside whenever I see him, and to call the cops if I feel threatened. Anybody that does this kind of thing obviously doesn't have the best intentions, so I understandably feel a bit more threatened.
It's definitely weird.
He shows back up. Fast forward to 2 days ago.
Oh boy.
Once again, I'm all by myself.
I thought I was just going in there.
My microwave is broken, so I've been making it a habit to go upstairs and use the kitchen whenever I'm by myself. I forgot to mention that the only door out of my apartment, besides going through the garage, is in my room. This is important to remember. I made myself some food and went back downstairs. When I got into my room, it was freezing cold.
Oh, don't tell me the windows open.
I live in Vermont, so this time of year I always left my door shut and locked and put a towel under it. I use the garage to go in and out of the house because as soon as I open my door, all the heat escapes my room. I always keep the heat cranked all winter because my room is the coldest in the entire house. When I looked at my thermostat, it was shut off. I turned it back up, and I was really unnerved because I had just turned it up about an hour ago.
Oh, but you know you didn't turn it off?
Turn it off.
I would have
because
left.
Of how cold my room gets. I felt a breeze on my back, and I turned around to see my door partially opened. I quickly close and lock it.
Oh, he can lock it from
but
the outside?
not before I peeked outside, and sure enough, I saw the flashlight guy's light go out as he turns the corner at the end of my street. The next day I told one of my neighbors about what happened.
Oh, he was in your house.
They told me just a couple of weeks prior, a woman that lives in the same neighborhood was alone, watching TV with her daughter, when someone broke in.
Oh, wow.
I guess they heard the intruder coming through the door and locked themselves in their bathroom and called the cops.
I feel like he's trying to
Whoever broke in
do something.
Must have taken off when he heard the sirens, because when the police got there, the back door was wide open and nobody was in the house. I don't know who this flashlight guy is or what the hell he went into my bedroom for, but at this point, as you can imagine, it's got me on edge.
Yeah, especially he didn't steal anything.
Since the other night, nothing more has happened. I've been keeping a light on outside and a couple more throughout the house during nights, so it doesn't look like I'm the only one here at night from now on.
Well, shit, maybe he wanted to do something to somebody. He breaking in with people there and
A
not
few
stealing
years
nothing.
ago, I was renting a house in Northern
Find me.
California.
Wow.
The neighborhood was just outside the
Yeah,
suburbs.
here we go.
It seemed like the perfect balance of having space and having nice neighbors close enough not to feel isolated. The area had no street lights, so it was very dark at night, especially when there were clouds blocking the moonlight. I got home from work one day in midwinter. It was a cloudy night, so pulling up to my house, I saw only what my headlights and front porch light illuminated. When I exited my car, I caught the faint whiff of cigarette smoke. That was odd, but I didn't see anybody outside, so I ignored
Staking
it
out the
and
place.
went in. I just got off my shift with a few hours overtime, so I felt pretty tired. Even though it wasn't even 7 o'clock yet, I decided to take a shower and call it a night. I woke up sometime later. I was sure that I heard a noise inside of my house. I wasn't worried right away, because my friend...
I'm watching this shit and I'm like, thinking I'm hearing it's like that. Because I have my window because it's too warm to have it closed. But I live next to an expressway. So, and it's Friday night or I guess Saturday morning. So people still constantly going back and forth. Normally on weekdays, you rarely hear anything, but on weekends it's a different story. And I thought I heard someone was like,
and would sometimes stop by to use my shower after work. I even gave him a spare key. However, he would always text me beforehand. Because my friend would sometimes stop by to use my shower after work.
I used to do this with one of my friends.
However, he would always text me beforehand.
She gave me a spare key
and
too.
I hadn't heard my
take
phone
a shower
go
after
off.
work, well before work.
I reached over to my bedside table
After
to see
PT.
if my friend had sent me a text. The bright light from my phone's screen blinded me. These were the days before phones had light sensors that would dim the screen in the dark. And this particular phone was so bright that I could use it as a flashlight. I squinted my eyes and could make out that it was 9-something in the morning, but I couldn't tell if I had an unread message in my inbox or not. I set down my phone and called out my friend's name. There was a couple of seconds of silence, followed by a loud footfall as someone started moving through the bottom floor of my house.
Oh shit.
I leapt out of bed and ran to the closet.
Do you have a
They were
lock on your
already
door?
the stairs by the time I opened the door and stepped inside. The house
Well, they
had
know
3
you did. That's
rooms
why I'm like,
upstairs,
you should
the
have,
bedroom that I was in, and a spare.
unless you don't have a
bathroom
lock,
at the end.
which is
The
stupid.
bedroom doors were both closed, but the bathroom door was cracked open. I heard whoever was in my house thunder down the hallway past my door and into the bathroom. That gave me enough time to open the attic access in my ceiling
Oh,
and
okay.
hoist myself
Okay,
inside.
well, that's fine.
I had just started to lift myself up when the person came barging out of the bathroom. My feet were barely inside the attic when my bedroom door flew open.
Oh, wow, this person don't give a
I heard the
fuck.
footsteps run
Yeah,
into
they
my
here.
room and then stop. When they didn't see me in that room, they ran back to the hallway and into the other room, which had boxes stacked in the corner, some weights, and a table where I painted my miniature models. I guess they decided that if someone was hiding, it would be in the first bedroom, because they charged back into my room and turned on the light.
Oh, wow.
A moment later,
Dude.
the closet door was ripped open. I was crouched in my attic, just a foot or so away
Please
from
tell
the
me you
access,
called you got a
so I could
phone.
try to stop them if they began to climb up. From my vantage point, I could see from about their knees down. They were wearing a dirty pair of blue jeans with frayed cuffs and worn-out work boots. After a few seconds of looking around my closet, they stepped away, and I heard a loud crash come from my room. followed by a scream of frustration.
Oh wow. Okay, this is a fucking insane person.
The scream was the most unnerving part of the incident for me. It reminded me too much of my stepfather,
Oh,
who would
childhood
shout in a
trauma.
similar way whenever he lost his temper. He would eventually be committed to a mental hospital.
Oh wow.
The man inside of my house ran back down the stairs. I heard crashes and clatters as things were thrown around and furniture was knocked over.
Why haven't you
But I
called the
stayed
police?
hidden in the attic. I left my cell phone by my bed when I ran for the closet.
Of course.
I wasn't certain if I could climb down without him hearing. After some time, the noises stopped. I started counting slowly. When I reached 1,000, I decided it was safe enough to climb down and call the cops. The first thing I noticed when I exited the closet was the intruder had flipped over my bed, I assume in some attempt to find me. I couldn't find my cell phone,
The story
so
sounds
I
familiar
used my
too.
landline to call the cops.
Oh, he
I
took the
waited in
cell
my
phone.
room
Yeah,
until
this
I
story
heard
sounds
them
very
call out from
familiar.
downstairs. The first floor was a mess, but that was something I expected. Chairs had been knocked over. The sofa had been flipped. All the books, pictures, and knickknacks I had on my shelves were strewn across the floor. The cupboards in the kitchen had been opened, and all the boxes and cans had been thrown to the ground. As far as I could tell, though,
It was a
the
lunatic.
only thing that was missing
It was
was a
self.
single knife out of the
Oh.
wooden block in my kitchen. The police checked my house from top to bottom. They
Shit.
found out that the side door had been forced open by a crowbar. They also found a few cigarette butts along the fence line,
This dude's planning
along
on
with some
coming here. If this is a
foil
woman,
and an empty pen
he
tube,
planning on coming here and
which the
raping her.
police said people often use to smoke meth. So
Oh.
whoever it was had been watching my house for a while. I realized that he must have been smoking a cigarette when I got home. They collected up the evidence and told me that I should stay with friends and family for the rest of that night and get the door fixed as soon as possible. I opted to just not sleep and moved a shelf over to block the broken door and spent the next few hours cleaning things up. I would often go to the window with a flashlight and shine it along the fence where the police had found the cigarette butts, but I never saw anything. The next day I called to have the door fixed and motion lights installed at the back and sides of my house. I ran a phone cable into the attic and added a landline.
That's
I never wanted
smart.
to be stuck up there without a phone again.
That's smart.
I lived there for another 3 years without incident. One more precaution I took was practicing getting out of my bed, going to my closet, and climbing into the attic as quickly and quietly as possible. I even kept at it when I
Doing drills.
moved, except now I go to a crawl space in the back of my closet. I try not to think about what would
Let's
have
have a safe
happened
room.
if I had been just a bit slower, or if he hadn't gone into the bathroom before making his way to my bedroom.
Cause I got a place I can go up in my closet. But
Hey everyone, this is your Uncle Unit. Thank you so much.
it is well, one thing is taped up, so you can't really climb up there with any type of quickness. Plus, it's not like an attic door like that where you can let it down and go up. I would have to bust through because it's like I said, it's taped up, and then jump through like or climb up and try not to disturb any of my clothes if someone was coming in here because clearly it would be obvious because I would have to knock stuff out the way. I don't have to, but I would if I was in any hurry to try to get up there and get stuff out the way. Plus, I ain't been up there. I don't know what's up there. He'd be fucking raccoons up there for all I know. I don't hear nothing, but you never know. But that last one, because like I'm pretty sure I've heard that story before from someone. It sounds very similar to another, these scary narrator channels. It sounds very similar. Like they went and hid in an attic, and somebody was like flipping their bed and stuff like that, and it said something about person was like on meth as well. So, which I'm not surprised. I mean, people emailing these people's stories. I'm sure some of them are similar. It's probably some of the same people doing it. They probably writing their own stories, and you got all these people doing these channels. Some of them gonna be similar. You know, some might even be exact. You know, it just somebody had the same idea. That's all. But that was cool. It's cool. All right, anyway, hope you enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure to subscribe and if you hit that bell if you want to be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.